Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm really, really excited. So, if you are here, it would be great if you can show me you're here with a like. If you want to use an emoji to describe how you all are feeling today, that would be wonderful as well. And just so you know you're in the right place, we're going to be doing a Facebook Live about language objectives today. And just as a friendly reminder, if you have not already downloaded the language objective guide, you will need to go to myadventuresinesl.com / language objective, and that's where you can download the guide. And it would be great if you can do that. That way, if you want to follow along and practice as you go, it would be wonderful. Also, I'm just so over prepared, a list of notes and things that I want to share with you all today. So if I'm looking down, don't think I'm being rude. I am just simply looking at my notes, okay? So just to get started, what you're going to be talking about today, or what we're going to be talking about today, is learning how to write a language objective. We're going to be talking about what is a language objective, how you can use language objectives, and if this is a day that you lesson plan like many teachers, then just start including them in your plan today. So just a little something about me. My name is Millie. I am a teacher for majority of the day, but for the second half of the day, I go out and I coach other teachers, which is a lot of fun. And I also write or support the curriculum in my school district. So I help write the curriculum for newcomers and for long-term ELLs. In addition to that, I have a blog, My Adventures in ESL, where I share everything that I know, or starting to share everything that I know about ESL, and share a lot of freebies. So if you haven't been to that yet, I would suggest that you go. So once again, we are here to talk about language objectives. What is a language objective? So what I would like you all to do is I'm going to switch screens, but what I would like for you all to do today, if like I say, if you have not, should be right there, go to that website and download the guide. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to jump right into it. I know when I'm watching, because I'll post this up on YouTube, I just want to be like, okay, no 15-minute introductions, just tell me what you need me to know. So I'm going to jump right into it for you all today, okay? So I'm going to switch screens. So let's see y'all. Okay. Uh-oh. I want this to look nice for you all, so give me a second. There we go. And I'm going to jump, and I'm doing it again. I'm going to jump right into the PowerPoint. There we go. For today. So let's get started. Okay, so using language objectives. And you guys, this is my first time using this technology, so thank you all for being patient with me as I'm doing that, okay? So using language objectives. So before we even get started talking about what is a language objective, we need to understand what is a content objective. And a content objective identifies what students should know and be able to do at the end of the lesson. And this leads to the assessment. Is linked to the engaging activities and to the learning outcomes. So that leads to what is a language objective. And let me back up right quickly. Usually, content objectives are attached to a standard of some sort. So if you have and I'm coming back out of this because I noticed that it's a little, I want to make sure you all are able to see. if you all have like here in the United States, we have what we call Common Core standards. And in Common Core, that's how we link our content objectives through the standards. Okay. Oh, that's so much better. Now, what is a language objective? A language objective is process oriented, meaning that reading and listening, or it's performance oriented, which is writing and speaking as a statement of what you want your students to do with the language. So I like to think of it this way. For process oriented, it's what the students are taking in. So what are they reading? What are they listening? What is their input? And performance oriented, I like to think of it as output. Like, what are they writing? How are they speaking? So in other words, what do you want the students to do with your reading, writing, speaking, and listening in your lesson today? So I want to talk. So if you just put in the comments for me, why are language objectives important? Like I said, I did this presentation with a group of teachers, mainstream teachers, and they came up with a lot of great things of why language objectives are important. And so I would love to know your opinion. So if you can put those in the comments for me, why are language objectives important? And I'm going to share with you some of the things that these teachers said. These are ESL teachers and mainstream. One of the things that was said was it promotes students' academic growth, which I think that's wonderful, because when I think about that, if you know what you want to do and as a student, what the teacher wants me to produce, is just like setting a goal. It includes the use of either receptive, listening and reading, or productive language skills, speaking and writing. And I've noticed, and what I've started doing is I've just gone through my lessons, and usually I'm able to find all 4 receptive and productive language skills. And it connects clearly with the lesson topic or the lesson activities. So remember, put in the comments. I would love to hear why you all think that language objectives are important for students and teachers. So this is a video. It is on YouTube. It is an amazing video. It's called Immersion. And it's about this young man named Moises who just arrived to the United States. He's a newcomer. He's in a class. You all, I cry every time I watch this video. It is so beautiful. So if you're able to share this video with teachers, you look at it yourself, it is such an amazing video. I don't want to play it today, but just take the time. And if you decide to present this to any teachers or staff or share with a principal, I would strongly suggest as an engagement activity, an eye-opener, is if you to watch this video. I will also include the link in the description and on my blog. So now I'm going to recap with you before we get to the fun part of us actually writing them ourselves. I'm going to recap with you what is a content objective. And the content objective just basically simply tells you what the students will learn during the lesson. That's it. What are they going to learn? So it's the what. So here are a few examples of content objective examples. And sorry, I'm in the way on some of these. So for science, I can use a thermometer and a wind vane to measure air conditions. Math, I can use tables to compare ratios. For social studies, I can understand the difference between a political map and a physical map. And then we have English, my favorite subject. I can support my inferences with evidence from inside out and back again. And that's actually one I had from one of my classes. So we talked about and provided examples of content objectives. Let's give a quick recap of what is a language objective. A language objective tells how the students will learn or demonstrate their mastery of the lesson by reading, speaking, writing, or listening. So it's going to tell you the how. How are they going to show you through those 4 functions of language that they've mastered the content objective? And here are some examples from some lessons or from making from those content. So here's one from science. I can record the weather conditions using a thermometer and sentence frames. For example, you see that writing right here, record is the action verb. So they're going to actually be writing something down. For math, I can write the ratios in the table using manipulatives. Social studies, I can listen and label political and physical maps with a partner. That's listening. And English, I can share my inferences from inside out and back again using a sentence frame with my group. So here's some examples of language objectives. So I took the content objectives that told me what they're going to be doing in class today and made them how they're going to be. So these, for example, right here, I can record the weather conditions using a thermometer and sentence frames. So if I see that they can record the weather conditions, then that tells me that they can use the thermometer and the wind vane to measure. Okay, so that's how I'm going to know if they're recording the correct things from the weather condition, the correct weather conditions. So I would like to talk to you all again, and I would like to know, just to check in, write a content objective from one of your lessons last week. And we're going to use those for our language objective practice. So if you can think of a content objective that you had last week, write them in the comments. And then we're going to use those for our language objective practice today. So here comes the fun part. How do I write the language objectives? So you know what language objectives are. We provided examples of language objectives, but now you need to know, well, how do I write them? And just to give you a little background about me, I recently found out over the summer that, hey, this is going to be a requirement. All teachers are supposed to do this. So I searched the internet and I was so confused by so much with language objectives that I was like, okay, how can I streamline this? And this is the process that I came up with. And so I'm very visual as well. So I created a graphic organizer to go along with this. So these are the steps that I took. And then ever since then, it's just been, I can do this in a minute now. So let me go back. The first thing that you need to do is identify how you want students to demonstrate their understanding of the content objective using the 4 language domains: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So how do you want the students to demonstrate their understanding? And these come from Bloom's taxonomy verbs. So for example, or another question you can ask yourself is, how will students show me they know or understand the standards? And like I said, standards here, we use Common Core. They may vary by state, but largely they're based on mostly the Common Core standards. The second step is identify the topic. Content related to what is taught at grade level with standards. And I am just a big advocate. No matter if they just arrived here, I'm a big advocate for teaching them grade level or teaching them with grade level standards. Step 3, identify the language function. So the language, so are they going to be, like I said, are they going to be reading, speaking, and writing? And then once you identify that language function, look for those action verbs that you want them to show you that, hey, they understand the content objective. And identify the supports that you're going to use with the students. Not all ELL students need a lot of supports. The higher they get, once again, I'm a big advocate, start taking those supports away. But for newcomers, level 1, level 2 students, they may need supports. And I have a list of common supports that you can use. For example, of some supports are sentence frames, graphic organizer, working with a partner. You can also, one thing that I use a lot, of teachers use a lot, are visuals. And we'll talk about how to use visuals in the classroom. So, once again, if you have not already, go to My Adventures in ESL /language objective and download the language objective guide. It is a step-by-step guide to understanding and writing language objectives. It includes a graphic organizer, supports and scaffolds, and action verbs, and it is free. Also, please check your spam folder. I hate spam, so I do not want to spam you. So I want to make sure that you are okay with getting emails from me. So if you haven't checked your inbox and you see that it hasn't came, check your spam folder and hit confirm, so that lets me know that you're okay with me sending you emails. So please do that. So what we're going to do is we are going to practice now. I'm going to pull some. I have my notes, and we are going to practice using some content objectives, writing some language objectives. And you can write these on your notes. You can use the ones that you have for the week. But as we say in Teacher World, I'm going to model for you first, and then you all can practice, okay? So I'm going to switch screens out to one of my favorite programs. And I'm going to go over to this, and I'm going to review this guide with you, okay? Like I said, it's free. And you can use this. It's great for you to use in your classroom. And I will also just suggest share this with your teachers, you know, like as far as your non-ESL teachers, your art teachers, math teachers, science teachers. They can really benefit from this as well. So I have the language objective guide. And here, this is where it provides you with, you know, the steps and information of how to write it. So for here, I use the example of Little Red Riding Hood. And at the bottom here, I identified my language domain, which is writing. My action verb is summarize. So basically, I went over to writing, and I said to ask this question to myself, well, how do I want the students to show me that they understand what is happening in this section of Little Red Riding Hood? How do I want them to demonstrate that to me, to show me? Now, I could have used writing or speaking, so I went with writing. So they're going to have to provide me with some output. I want to know that they understand. So I went down to writing, and then I clicked summarize, or I put summarize, and I put that in under my action verb. The topic is, in this case, Little Red Riding Hood, the text that they're reading. Supports. Now, in this instance, I have level 1, level 2 students, so I'm going to offer them supports with this one. And I gave them to you, they're using sentence frames, and they're going to work with a partner on how to summarize. But I want to say right here, who says you can't give them a summary, a graphic organizer to work with a summary, or give them a set of visuals and they look at the visuals and then they summarize Little Red Riding Hood? You can do so much with these supports. And then I basically, from this point, I just write my language objective. So I say I can summarize Little Red Riding Hood using sentence frames with a partner. So I pretty much just pulled and I combined all of this into one. Okay, so what we're going to do is practice writing them. So I'm going to exit out of this. Oh, let me go right back. So here is the graphic organizer here. And right here on the next page is scaffolds and supports examples. So for me, just to switch it up, I have to make myself a list, you know, and sometimes it gets confusing. You look on the internet and they have the same 5 ones as they always have. So I was like, I need a good list with varying levels. So for you all, I created a list that I use, some of the most common ones that I use for my students, and they are right here. And I'll pull one to write an example with today, okay? So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to be looking down for a second, or have my notes. I'm going to pull the one that says, for the content objective example, I'm going to pull the one that says, I can support my inferences with evidence from inside out and back again. Side note, that is a great book for ELLs if you all want to do a novel study. They loved it. My newcomers loved it. So that's under the English, and because I like English, of course, so I'm going to pull that one. But we can do a science and math one as well. So for the language domain, I'm going to ask myself the question, how am I going to, or how are my students going to show me that they understand, or that they can make or support their inferences with evidence from inside out and back again? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have them speak. So I'm going to put speaking for my language domain. That's the first thing that I'm going to do. And then for my action verb, I go up. You can just look. I know I'm under speaking. I'm going to use explain as the action verb. And I am going to, under here, and I'll write it again, explain. My topic is support inferences from inside out and back again. Now, just say, for example, I did this with my newcomers, level 1, level 2 students. I am going to give them a support for this one. This is their first time doing it, and they were 6th graders, so this was a tough one for them. So I'm going to give them support. So I'm going to say sentence frames or graphic organizer. I'm gonna do both. So since it's their first time speaking, sentence frames and graphic organizer. And I'm going to make this smaller. I hope you all can see fine. Right here. So now I just write my language objective. So I say I can, this is for the students, explain and support my inferences. So I'm taking the topic and putting it here. My inferences from inside out and back again, comma, using, so now I'm taking my supports, putting it here, sentence frames, and a graphic organizer. Okay. So now all I did was just take the little pieces here, and I have a language objective, okay? And so I'm going to do one more for math, because we did this in a PD for math teachers. And they were a lot of fun. They were a lot of fun. So I'm going to do the one that says I can use tables to compare ratios. So for me, this is definitely going to be a writing one because they're going to usually write on the table. So for my language domain, I am going to, there we go. I'm going to put writing. And you guys, this program maybe look a little familiar, not familiar to you all. So my action verb, go back up to the action verbs. And I'm going to, so if I'm using tables, I'm going to use record. So I'm going to put that as my action verb. My topic is comparing ratios. I am going to use manipulatives as a support. Oh, well, that's what that is. So I can record and compare. I can record ratios in a table using manipulatives. And a Venn diagram. So I'm going to add that Venn diagram up here as a support. So that way the students know that when they're recording the ratios, that they're going to use the Venn diagram first to compare them, and then they're going to record them. Okay? So what we're going to do, so you've seen a couple of examples. And what I'm going to do for you is to switch back screens. Let's see. Okay, so you've seen a couple of examples of how to complete a language objective. And I want to answer any questions that you have. Miss Paulette, thank you for being patient as I went through that. I saw your pop up and you said, is this available to make a personal copy? Miss Paulette, I'm assuming that you're talking about the language objective guide. So yes, it is available. And if you all can share this with your teachers in your building, I beg of you, please share this with them. And you can make a copy. And also, if you all want me to, I'll put up the PowerPoint that I did. So if you all want to do a mini PD in your building or professional development in your building with the teachers about language objectives to get buy-in for them, I just think it would be amazing that if every student in the building, every ESL student in the building, whatever class they go to, they have a language objective on the board. So that would be great. But yes, it is available for any personal copies that you have. I also want to share with you some of the common questions from the PD that we recently did from teachers. One of the teachers, a lot of mainstream teachers have in their cases 35 to 40 kids in a classroom. And so the question that we got was, oh, you expect us to do this on top of everything that we're doing already? You know, like, this is just too much. That was a lot of their concerns. And one of the things that I told them was, like, this can not only benefit your ESL students, but why can't it benefit your mainstream gen ed students as well? I mean, I feel like it can benefit everybody in your classroom. And it only takes a minute to do on your whiteboard protocol. And so getting that buy-in, if you can get it, that would be great. So do a PD, and if your comment back, if they ask you, oh, you want me to do this on top of everything else, just say it'll only take a minute. And if you can support them through it and do a PD. And that follows up is getting buy-in from teachers is so crucial. So do a professional development, use this graphic organizer for everybody that's visual. Just somebody said so true. So whatever you all could do just to get the buy-in from the teachers. Another thing is if you do a professional development for them or during a faculty meeting, take them through the guide and just list why this is so important. Just say, the content objectives just tell you, okay, what you're going to do, but the language objectives tells you, okay, how do I want you to get to where you are? So if you all have any questions for me, like if you want me to share anything, like I said, I'll put this PowerPoint up for you and you can use it. It's yours to use or modify however you want to. So I want to thank you all for coming in today and hanging out. And I really, really would love to hear from you. I would like to know if you all are using language objectives in your classroom, and I'm committing to be here every Sunday at 9. So I would love to see you all next Sunday at 9. I'm going to be talking about how to get your students speaking in the classroom, like ESL speaking activities. And just a preview, one of my favorite is what I call Target Talk, which is linked to this. So basically the students, after I post a language objective or a content objective, the students talk about it. And if you all are anything like me and an administrator walks in the room and they're like, oh, the kids are talking about the language objective or the content objective, it's fives all across the board. So it's a really, not only that, it's just a great strategy to get them talking and prepare for the assessments and using academic language. Also, if you haven't, I'm going to post this up on YouTube so you all can share, subscribe, follow it, share it with teachers in your building. And if you haven't already, let me switch back. If you haven't already, go to myadventuresatsesl.com and language objective. And Miss Rochelle, you are so right. Speaking can be tricky and it can be hard to teach. Side note, I had a hard lesson last year. I got my data back and the speaking had just went down. And I was like, okay, I don't like this. The students need this. So what can I do for the students? And it really is about, with the speaking, being more intentional. And that's also what prompted me to really get into the language objectives, because I'm like, okay, if they're going to be speaking, how am I as a teacher know that they've mastered it? Going back to that. Because I was like, yeah, I'll just do the content objective and be done. But with speaking, I'm realizing is that you really do have to be intentional about it. That was a big learning lesson for me as I was reflecting back on the year. But I want to thank you all for joining me this Sunday morning. If you have any other questions, you can email me. It's Millie, MILLIE, at myadventuresinESL. You can leave a comment on the video. And once again, I thank you all, and you all have a wonderful, wonderful Sunday. Bye.